Hello, early friends! Today I have a little bit of a special video for you. I hope to have enough silly jokes here and there to not make it super serious, but today's subject is a little bit on the serious side, and it's actually a question that someone sent me, and I want to remind you all that, if there's a question that you have on writing, send it my way and I may actually make a video about this. I get a lot of questions and I like to group them together into like a similar theme, and today we're going to be talking about killing the perfectionist, or the real thing that it is by another name, in which I will let you know in a little bit. But before I go anywhere though, allow me to give you the formal disclaimer, and as always, remind you that the following is merely just my advice, my opinion, and what works for me. Don't take it as gospel, instead take it as the ramblings of someone wearing a really ugly sweater. It's so cold outside, I couldn't bear but wear anything but my really comfortable ugly sweater. Totally the ugliest sweater there is. Still on this out of the way, what is today's question? Today's question came to me shaped around this sort of ideal, and it was the idea of, hey Max, I want to finish stories, but I can't because the perfectionist in me won't let me. How do I turn the perfectionist off? And it's funny because sometimes when I get questions, I have to stop and think about them because I want to give you something that has helped me, something that is directly a piece of advice that helped me, and I have to stop and break down and decompress the advice that I've gotten over the years. For this particular question, though, I didn't have to think about this. Whenever I get a question like this, or this particular question, one answer rings throughout the entirety of my writerly being, and that is to share with you a really cold and harsh truth. And that is something that I came to realize myself when I first began writing. And I realized that I was starting projects, and I would start projects, and I would plan a lot, and I would outline a lot, and I would try to write, and I would write a little bit, and then I would start judging myself. I would start questioning myself on the story, and I would tell myself, is this story dumb? Is everyone going to think this is dumb? Is no one else going to enjoy this? Is this bad? And then I would start shutting myself down. I would start questioning it and second-guessing myself, and I would just justify this as saying, this is not bad, this is not the right time. I will make the perfect story, the best story, later. And over time, I ended up recognizing this voice that wanted things to be perfect and good, so that people around them would be able to enjoy my books and like them, and objectively find them to be good things. And this voice, I ended up realizing later that it was something else entirely. But for the time being, I will tackle that in a moment. Let me tell you really quickly the harsh truth that I came to realize when I was going through a bunch of changes in my life, and I wanted to start finishing books. And I came upon one cold, harsh truth. What was that truth? It was the realization that if I wanted to finish books, and if I wanted to make this a career, if I wanted to spend the rest of my life being an author, creating stories and sharing them with the world, this voice needed to shut up. Really? Some of you may be thinking, yeah, that's really straightforward. I don't think so. Because people assume that the perfectionist voice is an objective thing. It's a good thing to have because you want things to be perfect. Sure, but the thing is this. If that voice stops you every time you start, if that voice makes you hate what you make, you're never going to finish anything. And if you want to make this a career, if you want to spend your life as an author, you have to finish things. Again, this writerly friend asked me, Max, I want to finish books. How do I turn off the voice? And my answer was the same answer that helped me. Realize this truth, this cold fact, that if you let this voice stop you, if you let this voice distract you and lower your morale, it's going to do so for the rest of your life, and you're never going to finish anything. And if you don't finish things, you're never gonna finish an entire book, and you're never gonna get that book published, and you're never gonna make a career out of this and write books for the rest of your life. There's a quote that I shared on the blog recently, and it's actually one of my favorite quotes, and it goes a little bit like this. It's a quote by John Campbell. The reason 99% of all stories written are not bought by editors is very simple. Editors never buy manuscripts that are left on the closet shelf at home. Writing is a very interesting medium. Writing is a lot like all of the other arts that exist because you create content and you hope that it explodes out there, that people notice it, and then it gets your attention and it gets you noticed, and the snowball of popularity and profit starts rolling your way. Or rather, away from you, because you wouldn't let the snowball to hit you. The metaphor starts falling apart right around that point, but you get what I mean. It's the idea that, you know, you create content and you throw it out there, and people think it's a lot like the lottery, and it kind of is up to an extent, but the idea is this. You still have to play, though. You still have to write content and throw it out there at the world, and to see what happens and see what bursts, and how people react to it, and how the world looks at your creation, at your art. You can't do that if you don't finish things. You can't do that if you let that little voice in the back of your head convince you that what you're doing is crap. Convince you that what you're doing is not worth your time. Convince you that you are wasting your life doing this. And you know what? That voice is wrong. That voice is wrong because that voice is not the perfectionist. People keep calling this the perfectionist in you. It's not. I'm gonna tell you right now what that really is. What I realized that was when a couple of years back, when I began this journey of mine, that voice is not the perfectionist. That voice is fear. Yes, it's fear. It's not perfectionism, because a perfectionist mind would not tell you to stop. It will tell you to keep working and working until it was perfect. It wouldn't tell you to stop. It wouldn't tell you this is crap. It will tell you this is not perfect yet. Let's make it perfect. Let's create this into what it is meant to be. A perfectionist voice would inspire you to keep going. This is not perfectionism. It's fear. You're afraid that people will think your work is bad, or you're afraid that people won't enjoy what you do. And I've been saying this for years on my blog, and the ultimate reality is this, okay? You have zero control over how people will react to your writing. You can attempt to create something that everyone will like, and it will still cause people to not like it. Ultimately, you have no control, because people pick up books, and their reaction to the book is actually based entirely on themselves. It has hardly anything to do with the book itself, because stories affect us differently depending on the time of our life that we're digesting it, the time of our existence, and what is going on in our heads at the very time. Reading a book and sharing your thoughts on it is a very interesting thing, because it's the amalgamation of everything that is happening to you. And it's also another really famous quote that reading the right book at the right time can change your life. And again, you don't have control over that. You can come in trying to write an inspirational book, and it may not inspire people. Why? Because you don't have the direct control to do that. You can give people the fuel, but they have to light the match. They have to start the fire themselves. You can't do that on your own. And ultimately, as I keep saying, you don't have control over how people react to your stories. So I realized many years ago that I was building walls. I was preemptively creating defenses. You know, what if people think that this character is dumb? Oh, I will do this instead. What if they think the setting is stupid? I will do this instead. And I was making walls, making defenses for the preparations of armies that had yet to come, thinking that people would come to me, attacking me for my books and my writing style and the way that I created stories. And I spent a lot more time worrying about this. I spent a lot more time beating myself over the head because I wasn't good enough, because my fear kept telling me that it was easier to not write than to put myself out there, than to throw my stories into the void and to see how the world reacted to them. And I felt that I came at a fork on the road. I had two choices before me. I could continue letting this voice in the back of my head, this fear, because let's call it what it really is. I could let this fear control me. I could allow it to continue feeding me these lies that somehow my writing was bad and it would always be bad, or that I was not deserving of being able to seek my dreams. I could continue listening to that voice, or I could continue on writing. I could fight that voice. I could mute that voice. I could remind myself of the ultimate truth, that what my writing is right now doesn't matter. Because a writer is not a moment. A writer is an overarching journey, because you're always improving as a writer, always getting better, and always improving on your craft. But you can't improve if you don't finish stories. As they say, you can't run a marathon in pieces. You have to do it in one go. That's what makes it worth it. You have to write a full story and get it out and get it done and get it finished. And that within itself will teach you more. And I've been saying this for years. Finishing a story will teach you more than starting 1,000 stories, because it's the overarching journey. You have to start with nothing and end up with something that is a miracle, because you created a story out of your own imagination and your ability to narrate and to storytell. It's an amazing journey within its own, and you have to get to the end, but you can't get to the end if you let that fear and self-doubt stop you every other step. And is it hard to just basically, cover your ears and keep writing? Of course it is. It's terrifying and it's hard, but that within itself is the challenge, because that voice is not special to writing. That voice is in every medium of every sort of creative output that there is. Whether it is painting or music or writing stand-up comedy, everyone has to battle with this voice. And ultimately, it becomes about stepping beyond it, about ignoring it, and accepting the truth that if you don't ignore this voice, if you don't take the leap, if you don't jump into the water, you're never going to finish anything. And yes, I know that it's a little dark and grim, and maybe a little bit too dark and grim for the nature of this channel and the nature of my commentary, but I wanted to make this point because that is ultimately what helped me. Someone came to me and asked me, Max, how did you overcome this? And I have shared with you my real answer. Not a cutesy answer, not a wishy-washy answer, my real answer, what has really helped me, because there was a time when I didn't finish stories. There was a time when I hid behind fear, because it was easier not to make a choice than facing the consequences of my choice. And I realized that that's not how I wanted to live. I wanted to seek my dreams, and here I am now. Not exactly world famous, but I have made a little nook for myself, and there are people who value my opinion, and I've put a lot of stories out there, and I'm looking out to put even more. It's all part of the process. I would not ever claim that I'm there, but I'm way ahead of where I started at. To think that I would give that really emotional speech on my gosh doodly darn ugly sweater. But silliness aside, I hope that this video helped, and I hope that if anything I've given you another point of view, another perspective on this issue. I know that writing is a very daunting thing. The writing is a very terrifying thing, and the same goes for pretty much any craft out there. We're not very special when it comes to that. But what I want you to take from this is that struggle is real. The struggle is real, but you can overcome it as well. Because, and this is what I want you to take from this. Okay, what I want you to remember whenever you feel that voice in the back of your head telling you that you suck, that you're bad, and you're never gonna be good. Every single one of your favorite authors, of your favorite artists, of the favorite people you see out in the world, the people who put themselves before a crowd and talk and joke and sing, have battled that same voice and have overcome that same voice, that fear. It's not about being a perfectionist, because the voice of a perfectionist will inspire you to keep working until things were perfect. This is the voice of fear, the fear that shuts you down, the fear that pushes you away, the fear that makes you want to stop. And everyone you look up to has defeated this voice in one form or another. Some people don't ever truly defeat it, but ultimately it's about overcoming it, about being able to put it away, shut it down, stick it in the closet until you can actually finish this book. There will always be doubt, there will always be fear, but there will never be art unless you go out of your way and finish things. But yes, that's what I think, and that's how I feel about this particular situation. If you disagree, or if you would like to share your own particular point of view and how you have been able to overcome, the idea of fear or your own self-doubts, please feel free and welcome to go into the comments below and let me know what you think. I love reading your comments, and again, you know that I don't sell these videos as anything other than my opinion, as anything else other than what worked for me. I'm not selling this as gospel. It's just merely what helped me, what allowed me to be able to look at things on the grander scale, and in this particular case, being able to fully realize and acknowledge that unless I overcame this fear, I would never get anywhere. And that greater fear allowed me to push forward. And it's funny, because from fear came inspiration, and from fear came courage, because I realized that what I wanted was within reach. I just needed to face this greater evil and ignore this smaller hurdle. And I was willing to do that. I was willing to do that because I wanted something really badly, and I wanted to chase my dream, and here I am. Not exactly all the way there, but, I'm, as I mentioned, way closer than where I began. But that's another story for another video. With all of those things said, though, I want to thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. And if this is your first time watching me, I wear better things than this ugly sweater, I promise. If you would like to see more of my silliness, feel free to hit the subscribe button. I do a lot of writing content. And with all of those things said, though, I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for spending a little bit of your day with me. And I'll be seeing you soon. Mwah!